China housing volume sales are already down 30% this year, and price is down 7%. And real estate in its concentric circles represent 40% of Chinese GDP. And so the drag on Chinese GDP from real estate alone is 3 points. And then you look at industrial production, and that drag, I think, could be at least 2 points. I mean, if China actually prints the real number, they could be at 0. So this global growth scenario of 2022 at 3% is a pipe dream. That'll be revised way down. But the question is, if Europe is struggling with the enormity of their power crisis, and we haven't even had the winter yet, Adam.
I know
the winter could cause discontinuous pricing, and so China's not going to be the growth engine to the world. The U.S. is actually the best of all the markets, and I would suggest staying with investments in U.S. markets, but I also would wait a few months to kind of see the whites of their eyes here and see how the market reacts to the Fed's balance sheet contracting along with an aggressive rate hikes.
All right, and thanks. We're beginning to build the capital case here. So we've already, heard from you. Wait a little bit. Market's likely to head down sooner. We've also just heard U.S. probably best market to put capital in for the time being. I'm glad you went to China. I had a number of questions about China. Maybe we can just do rapid fire through them,
Sure.
so that I at least scratch some of this itch for users. You've already answered the most important question, which is sort of what do you see as its outlook economically? Sounds like you see substantially slower growth there. Real estate market there is obviously the big enchilada. It's the world's biggest asset, apparently. Feel free to answer anything else about their economy you haven't yet, if there's anything you want to say. But from a political stability side, how secure is Chairman Xi there? Is he going to be around for a long time, or are things more politically unstable than the people in the West imagine?
Well, I mean, the way the headlines read and the way that he has consolidated his power, it seems like he's going to be emperor for life.
Yeah.
Kind of grabbing the term from Mao. But I think that inflation is a disaster for a communist regime. Popular uprising is also a disaster. And what's happening, if you look at the birth rate in China, it's dropped to 1.2. So when you understand what's happened here, China has allowed real estate prices to grow unabated from 2009 to about a year ago. And you saw median home price got to be 36 times median income. At the peak of US folly in 2006 and 7, we got to about 6.5 times. Right.
So 6 times worse, than our worst ever metric.
Yeah. And that was in tier 1 cities. In tier 2 and tier 3, it was a little less, but still like orders of magnitude different, not just multiples different. And so what happened is Chinese men are graduating university and they're going back to live in their parents' basement, and they're not dating, they're not marrying, and they're not procreating. So China abandoned its one-child policy, realizing that its demographic profile was actually not healthy for their economy. But
it basically ate out the bottom of that pyramid, right?
That's right. And instead of that decline that was a steady decline going from now until 2050, the new line is an absolute falling off a cliff line. Just last night, South Korea smashed their own record for lack of fertility or lack of births. So you're seeing this real estate phenomenon again. With central planning and central banking, you can't spin all of the plates and keep them spinning properly, or else we'd all be speaking Russian today, right? So I think from this scenario, what Xi has learned is that he is going to stomp out residential and real estate speculation. And so the 9 or 10 Chinese developers that are in some stage of default today, they're going to stay in default. And if you're a Western bondholder, what you're going to get in return, it rhymes with hero. You're not going to get paid anything, and that's what you're going to deserve for investing in a regime like that as a Westerner. But that Chinese real estate market needs to come way down, and it needs to stay down for their economy to, quote, work. And so I just believe that you're not going to see a rapid turnaround. And what's interesting is the total social financing, which is their kind of credit impulse number, is a number where you have government and then you have consumer, and they've been cutting rates and there's been no consumer response.
Yeah.
And it's really troubling the central planners from what my contacts say over there. So I don't see the credit impulse returning even as they cut rates. So China's in real trouble.
All right, and you're much more of a China expert than I, so correct me if this is a wrong assumption, but I've heard that, you know, the average Chinese citizen, they put their savings into real estate much more so than Americans do. And of course, we've all heard about the ghost cities and whatnot there. So if you're saying that the official policy is to bring the speculation out of the real estate market, seems like there's a lot of speculation to remove from there. As I mentioned, it's the world's biggest asset. So just on an absolute value, that's a lot of value that they're vaporizing here.
But they have
that's gonna really, I mean, that's apparently gonna really smack down consumer spending there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it will decimate consumer spending. And what the central party has said is the local governments need to increase their government land sales to make up the deficits in their budgets. Well, if developers are broke, they're not going to be increasing their government land sales
right.
To developers. If you get a zero household debt growth number, which is what it looks like right now, you're going to see housing volume drop over 50% year over year. And you're going to see price drop 15%. And their banking sector is 3.5 times more levered than the U.S. banking sector was going into the global financial crisis. So again,
what's the contagion risk there?
Worse all the way through.
Yeah, what's the contagion risk here that China could have its own 2008 moment?
You know, I tend to think that they can abandon moral hazard at some point in time. The domestic Chinese market is an RMB based market, and they can print as many RMB as they want to print, and they can plug holes and they can fix things and they can abandon moral hazard. They haven't done so yet call it en masse, but I think if things get bad enough, they will. And their dollar-based interactions with the world are their external interactions. And the question is, do they really have the reserves they say they have, $3 trillion? I don't think they do. So the question is, if their internal marketplace is doing so poorly, how are they going to be able to function externally? And especially with their new militaristic belligerence vis-a-vis Taiwan, you know, they're really walking the razor's edge here. If they decide to move on Taiwan, their economy is going to, I think, fall directly into the toilet.
If you enjoyed this video clip, click here to watch another one you should like.